She was walking home from work, just a regular night. Two officers pulled over and accused her of looking suspicious. They didn't ask questions. They used fists. But they didn't know her husband was watching. Not just any husband. The FBI director. And now, they're under federal investigation. It was late, almost 8:45 p.m. Tasha Williams had just finished a 12-hour shift at the hospital. Her scrubs were wrinkled, her sneakers worn out, and her nurse's ID badge still clung to her collar. She walked the same route home every night, past closed storefronts and flickering streetlights. She was tired, not just from work, but from the weight of the world. As a black woman in the city, she'd grown used to stares, whispers, and being followed in stores. But tonight, something was different. As she stepped off the sidewalk, a police cruiser slowed beside her. The headlights hit her like a spotlight. Two white officers inside exchanged a glance. "Where are you headed?" one barked from the passenger seat. Tasha paused, confused. "Home," she said, pointing up the block. "I just got off work. I'm a nurse." "Got ID?" the other one snapped. She opened her purse slowly. "Yes, it's right, put your hands where I can see, M." Heart pounding, she raised her hands. "I'm not doing anything wrong." That's when the doors flew open. Both officers approached fast. One of them grabbed her wrist without warning. "You fit the description." "What description?" she gasped. "I just left the hospital." She tried to step back, not run, not fight, just back. But they pushed her against the wall of the corner store. A trash can toppled nearby. A dog barked across the street. "I said don't resist," yelled the officer, now twisting her arm behind her back. Tasha cried out. "I'm not resisting. I'm just trying to." She never finished the sentence. A hard shove sent her crashing to the ground. Her elbow scraped the pavement. A sharp sting bloomed across her cheek where it hit the concrete. People started to gather. Someone pulled out a phone and began filming. One officer drove his knee into her back while the other handcuffed her tightly. Tasha's voice was hoarse. "I didn't do anything," but they weren't listening. They never checked her ID. They never asked her name. And that name would have stopped everything. Because Tasha Williams wasn't just a nurse. She was the wife of the most powerful law enforcement official in the country, FBI Director Marcus Williams. But they didn't know that. Yet, FBI Director Marcus Williams was in his study, going over a high-profile security briefing, when his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He ignored it. It buzzed again, and again. Finally, he picked up. A shaky voice came through. "Director Williams, it's your wife. She's been hurt, the police. They beat her up. It's all over social media. Please check your messages. I recorded it." Marcus's heart dropped. He opened the message. There it was, a video. The screen shook as a bystander recorded two cops pinning a black woman to the pavement. She screamed in pain. Her face was bleeding. It was Tasha. He stood frozen for just a moment, then fury surged through him. Not the loud kind, but the deadly quiet kind. The kind that shakes governments. He didn't call 911. He didn't panic. He called the FBI's emergency response unit. "This is Director Williams. My wife has just been assaulted by local PD officers on 18th and Main. Secure the area. Now." Next, he dialed the Assistant Director of Internal Affairs. "I want body cams, cruiser GPS, and full names of the officers involved, in 10 minutes." The machine of federal justice roared into action. By the time Marcus arrived on the scene, the ambulance was already there. Tasha lay on a stretcher, her face swollen, one eye shut, dried blood on her cheek. The officers didn't recognize him. They were chuckling beside their cruiser. Then he stepped out of his black SUV. Dark suit. FBI pin. Rage in his eyes. "Which one of you laid hands on my wife?" he asked quietly. They looked confused, until he pulled out his badge, FBI Director, Marcus Williams. The laughter vanished. Their faces went pale. One tried to stutter an explanation. "I don't want excuses," Marcus snapped. "I want your names. Now." A hush fell over the block. Tasha reached out to him from the stretcher. "You found me," Marcus gripped her hand gently. "They won't touch you again." He turned to the officers, voice low but sharp as steel. "You assaulted a federal officer's spouse, and didn't even ask for her name." Sirens in the distance grew louder. Federal agents were arriving. The storm had just begun. The next morning, the video of Tasha's assault exploded across the internet. News channels picked it up within hours. Social media burned with outrage. Hashtags like #JusticeForTasha, #CopsCaught, and #FBIWifeBeaten trended globally. Tasha's face, bruised, swollen, still in her scrubs, was on every screen in America. People didn't just see a nurse. They saw themselves. Their mothers, daughters, Wives. A woman walking home from work, punished for the color of her skin. The country was furious. Within 24 hours, the two officers, Officer Brent Kyle and Sergeant Mike Olson, were placed on administrative leave. But the public wasn't satisfied. They wanted more. At the FBI press conference, Marcus Williams stood tall in front of the seal, a row of cameras flashing nonstop. He didn't need to scream, his voice cut through the silence like a knife. My wife is a registered nurse. She spent her night saving lives. And yet, she was treated like a criminal, not for what she did, but for how she looks. He paused. Then added, "This is not just about Tasha. This is about every black woman who walks home alone and wonders if she'll make it. This ends now." The room fell silent. Meanwhile, reporters dug deeper into the officers' pasts. What they found was damning: over a dozen previous complaints against each officer, for racial profiling, excessive force, and illegal searches. None had led to consequences. Until now. Internal Affairs launched a full-blown investigation. Body camera footage confirmed everything the bystanders captured. Even worse, the officers hadn't turned in a report, meaning they planned to bury the incident, as if nothing had happened. Outside the police department, protesters gathered with signs, "Nurses deserve safety, her blood. Your shame, we are all Tasha." Tasha, still healing, sat down for an interview days later. Her voice was soft, but unwavering. "They didn't ask my name. They didn't ask if I was okay. They just saw a black woman in the dark and assumed I was a threat. But I'm not the one who should be feared." The video of her interview went viral too. Millions watched. Millions wept. And the pressure mounted. The city couldn't ignore this one. Not this time. 6 weeks later, the courtroom was silent. The trial of Officer Brent Kyle and Sergeant Mike Olson had drawn national attention. The courtroom benches were packed with journalists, activists, and concerned citizens. Every camera was pointed at the defendants, once cocky, now pale and fidgeting in their uniforms. Marcus and Tasha sat together in the front row. She was still healing, but she held her head high. Her cheek bore a faint scar, not of weakness, but of survival. The prosecution laid out every detail. The officers never asked for ID. They ignored protocol. They falsified their report. They assaulted a woman for walking while black. And they had done it before, over and over again. Only this time, they picked the wrong target. The video played again for the jury, the same one that had shaken the country. Gasps echoed through the room as Tasha's cries and the crack of her body hitting pavement filled the speakers. The defense tried to argue she matched a suspect's description. But the jury wasn't buying it. When the verdict came, the courtroom held its breath. Guilty on all counts. Gasps. Tears. Applause outside. Both officers were immediately taken into custody. Tasha exhaled slowly, not with joy, but with relief. Justice had spoken. As they stepped outside the courthouse, hundreds had gathered, cheering and holding up signs with her name. News crews swarmed the steps. Marcus gave one final statement: "This isn't just about one case. It's about what happens when power goes unchecked. My wife should never have had to suffer to spark change. But now that it has, we will not stop until this system is fixed." Tasha looked at the crowd and said softly, "I'm just glad people listened." A month later, she was back at the hospital, walking down the same halls, caring for the same patients. Nurses hugged her. Security walked her to her car. She smiled, knowing the world now saw her. And when she walked home that night, something was different. People nodded respectfully. Patrol cars slowed to wave. Streetlights felt warmer. Not because of fear, but because justice had finally, loudly, been served. She wasn't just Marcus Williams' wife anymore. She was Tasha, a symbol, a survivor, a voice.